water.
I'm just starting it. Okay.
This is unacceptable. This water coming into this basement is a real problem. If you're ever trying to finish a basement space or add a new bathroom to a basement, you have to get rid of the water that's coming in from the foundation. Solve that issue before you go spend thousands of dollars on your basement bathroom or refinishing project. This is something that doesn't just go away. It's definitely going to cause problems. Even if you did tile work, having hydraulic pressure from underneath the slab and pushing up against the tile is no good, and it's just going to fail over time. So in this video, I wanted to highlight how I'm going about solving this and putting an interior French drain system in. And you know, I primarily do bathrooms, but this is a very important aspect that you have to take care of if you have a basement and you need to get the water from basically from coming inside the house and getting it out. So this interior French drain system is a very simple process. It's just a lot of labor, and it's probably one of the worst jobs you can do. So I'm going to highlight every step of the way of how we're going about this and making sure that we get a dry basement before we do any finishing. So the project outline is actually really simple, as I was mentioning, but it does require a lot of tools. So I created a spreadsheet that is going to include all of the materials that I use for this project, along with the tool suggestions. Now, some of these tools, it might be better off renting if it's not going to be something you're going to do a lot of, especially when it comes into buying a jackhammer. I highly doubt, if you're not going to be doing this stuff for a living, that you're going to be using that often. So that's where renting makes a lot of sense. So yeah, keep in mind, it's a simple process, but does require a bunch of tools to be able to do it. All right, so the ideal thing, so this is the footer right here. You see that flat piece of concrete right here, so that's the footer. That's where you want to get down to if you can. Now sometimes that's really difficult, but if you could have your pipe like even with your footer, then this will all drain into a sump pump. So that's the ideal situation, is getting right down to the footer, because most likely it's where the concrete block is sitting on top of the footer. That's where all the water is coming in. So if you don't get down below that, then there's still going to be water coming out and then having hydraulic pressure pushing up. But you know, sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's difficult. I mean, once you get a drainage system in here, even when water does come up, it's still going to drain that way. So, but this is ideal. This is what you want. You want to have right down to that footer. I mean, you can just see this water flowing in here. It's unbelievable. So yeah, this is just one half of it, and we're gonna take another day to do the other half. All right, day 2, and I have to say, this is definitely a young man's job. My back is killing me just from that little, 15-foot trench. Thank God my son helped me out with that. But today, so this job is a little bit more complicated than I hope most of you have, and that's because the hot water tank is right in line where I want this French drain system, and I also have a well pressure tank system right in the way there. So there's no way to keep this and dig underneath of that I know of. It's very, very difficult to do anything correctly with this into place. So what I'm going to do on day 2 here is install the sump pump, the pit, trench to about, to the hot water tank, and then the next day take all of this out of there, trench the rest, get the French drain system in. So I'm gonna have to work kind of fast on that, because we don't want to be without hot water, and we don't want to be without water very long. But this is probably gonna, other than this, this is not a usual scenario, so hopefully none of you have this issue. But this is usually the worst part of an interior French drain system, and that's installing the sump pump with the pit. Primarily the pit because you got to dig down so far for this little garbage bin to sit down in. So that's where the water is going to collect in, and then the sump pump is just going to pump it right outside. So a lot of digging today. Hopefully I don't get into too many huge rocks and stones underneath of this. Up in Vermont, it's probably very likely. So, you know, luckily I have a jackhammer to do that. But yeah, day 2 of an interior French drain. So the hole that I'm drilling here through the concrete block is about a 2-inch hole, and this is above ground level. So just right above the ground level, I'm drilling that hole. You don't want to be going down below that for obvious reasons. You're going to create more problems for water to get in. So just make sure you're above ground level, and then you can discharge the water out into your yard. All right, so we got the pit in, and I was pretty astounded by the amount of groundwater that kept flooding into this hole. So what I did was drill a couple holes into the actual pit so that the water can escape into that. Otherwise, it's just going to keep floating up. A lot of this groundwater should be cleared up once we get this whole trench done. I have a feeling a lot of it's just going underground there, and then this is like one of the low spots of the basement it's going into. But regardless, I mean, the pit is just really just to prevent all the debris from being around the actual sump pump. So putting some holes in it, it's not going to be a big deal. There's already ground water at that level. We're just getting the rest of it out of it. So really, this is very, very simple. This is one part that doesn't come with it. I don't understand why they don't, but it's a sump pump check valve. So make sure you get this as well. It's a very simple, deal. It just basically has a flap on the inside, so when you pump the water up, it doesn't just keep going back into the actual pit. So this just simply threads right into the unit, and then obviously you can see the mechanics of this is just a float. So once this activates high enough, it turns on the float, or it turns on the pump. And then as you can see here, there's like little perforated areas here, so all the water from this point is going to be coming out of there. So let's go ahead and take our discharge hose. We've got a little clamp here. Set this down into the pit. All right, day 3 of a interior French drain system. This is one of the biggest reasons I didn't even want to get into this, and that was because I'm going to have to move all of this. The hot water tank actually isn't going to be too bad because it's electric, so I can just sit it aside, basically temporarily turn it back on for the evening. But this is the part that I'm a little nervous about, just because you're disconnecting this from the main well line, and you just never know what you're getting into. I mean, hopefully everything threads on the way that I wanted to. I did get a whole new system because I didn't want to use this old stuff. That thing's probably 15 years old. So I did get a whole assembly. So it does seem pretty straightforward. Got a new tank. Spent way more than I thought it was going to cost. I think this was around $1,300. I really can't wrap my head around it, but I guess that's the way it's going to be. So, but one thing I am going to do is I'm going to convert this stuff to PEX, just make this easy rather than doing all these copper fittings. To me, it just doesn't, you know, it's just going to take a lot more time. So using PEX is going to save a lot of time. Alright, so this is the main component. This is just a simple drainage pipe. Now I do recommend getting the one that has a landscaping fabric over it so it doesn't get clogged. It doesn't really cost much more. You can actually buy the sock separate if you can't find a roll in it. But yeah, I mean this is a 4-inch. Now in the past where I really had trouble digging down low enough to put this, I have purchased 3-inch piping. That could be a real good alternative if you really have a trouble getting down deep enough. The idea is just to get a little bit of gravel over top of this and then concrete the rest. If I have 2 inches of concrete over top, I'm pretty happy. But I know some scenarios it's really difficult to get down into the earth and get a 4-inch pipe. But if you can go with 4-inch, way to go. Now the other thing I have is just bags of gravel. We're going to put a little bit of this down so that it's not all just sitting in mud. And then we're going to basically cover the entire top of it with gravel as well. The other thing I should mention, don't worry about being level or unlevel or like sloping. I mean, ideally, it would be nice if everything's sloped, but now that you're below ground level, I mean, this is just a conduit for the water to go to the sump pump. So it'll get there one way or the other. If water sits on the low end of the pipe, it's not a big deal. It's just going to drain eventually. We're basically just creating a nice, easy path for this water coming in under this foundation and going into that sump pump. So I'm just going to use a couple bags of this first. You can see here, I have a footer around this pilaster, so I had to cut the concrete to go around. I already cut a hole in my bucket. I'll stick that in there, and then just run my drainage pipe.
That's it. Oh yeah. Oh my.
I'd say another 12 bags.
You said 15. I agree. 15.
Yeah, so, well, that'll be enough for today. I mean, I'll get more gravel and but I gotta get our water back on, so I change out that valve. All right, day 4, and really technically the final day of our interior French drain system. So we got all the French drain in, we got the sump pump in, and obviously the digging of the trench, which was the hardest part. Now we're gonna go ahead and finish off the gravel. I got a bunch more gravel to fill over my entire French drain system, and I got the concrete mix to go over top so that we can, completely finish the space. But this is probably one of the most important aspects to the interior French drain system. You don't want to just concrete right over what you did there, or you're just going to end up with the same problem to a certain extent. Because if you just concreted right over this and you didn't have any separation between the wall and the floor, then anything that's on the block foundation wall that's dripping down is just going to come right onto the main concrete floor. So you need to separate it with some kind of a membrane. That's why I got this dimple board, or this dimple sheet. So essentially this is just going to lay over the gravel and up the wall a little bit, and creating that little separation between the concrete block and the floor. So anything that comes down behind this foam board or along the block will go down and into our French drain system. This unfortunately is pretty expensive for a roll of this. They do make some stuff that is already bent and easy to install, but I found it completely ridiculously expensive. They must have some kind of patent on it. It would have cost me over $600 just for some plastic pieces to do on this if I had to go that route, and I wasn't willing to pay that. So I got this. We're going to cut this down a little bit. I don't need it this long, but we'll go over installing this here shortly. But again, this is really the day 4. I should mention, really I only have about 10 to 11 hours so far into this trenching and doing what I'm doing here, and a lot of the time was spent removing a lot of my appliances. So a lot of you, if you're just doing a straight wall with nothing in front of it, you really could do this in a weekend. So let's get to finishing this off, and we'll show you an overview of what it looks like after everything's finished. So, yeah, that's the hydraulic pressure. So all those block holes are filling up with water, and there's no place for it to go. So you want to drill those holes and then wrap this up so that anything behind it just goes straight into the French drain. If I were to concrete it right now and just go straight up to that block, I would fix part of the problem, but it would still be coming all over the floor. So you want to drill holes, and then you want to separate the block from the footer. So that's it. That's really all there is to it for the interior French drain system for my day 5. I'm just setting some blocks so I can set the hot water tank above the ground level and also get that pressure tank up as well. But this is going to ensure that you have a dry basement. Now I can go ahead and actually finish the entire basement if I wanted to. And it's something that I highly recommend that you address before doing a basement bathroom. And speaking of basement bathrooms, I do have an online course that highlights every aspect of a bathroom installation, from adding the plumbing to framing to drywall work to the tile work. I mean, it really encapsulates everything. And I spent hundreds of hours of putting it together. And I just basically wanted one space that would be able to, like basically a curriculum that's going to help you guide you through the entire process so that you're not lost, you're not overwhelmed, you're not hunting around here on YouTube trying to find answers like maybe you found this interior French drain system. So it really is just about benefiting you. And if you had any questions about your own project, you can always leave me a comment in any tutorial in my course and I will get back to you, or you could sign up for a coaching call as well. So anyways, I really hope this demonstration has helped you out, give you some insight on what it takes. Definitely check out the links below with all the materials in my basement bathroom course. And until then, I will see you in the next course and next YouTube video. Thank you. Bye.